Hello, my name is David, and this is the first of hopefully a few videos on Japanese new religious movements. What is a new religious movement? Well, it's what the average person would call a cult. The word cult, however, tends to have very negative connotations, so in academic writing, alternative terms such as new religious movement or modern religious organization are used. Next, you might be asking, are there a lot of new religions in Japan? Apparently yes. According to one source I read, over 10% of all Japanese citizens could be members of new religious organizations. Regardless, the country has spawned and housed several very strange and very infamous religious groups, one of which I'd like to discuss today. But why are there so many of these groups? Well, there are a number of possible reasons, but the Second World War definitely played a large role. Shinto, the native Japanese belief system, was used to promote the war effort during the 1930s and 40s, with school children taught that the emperor came from a divine lineage and that Japan had a special connection to the heavens, among other things. These beliefs fell heavily out of favour after the Japanese surrender to the USA, thus leaving a spiritual vacuum that some would-be prophets sought to fill. And to this background, one particular group emerged, the group we'll discuss today, Soka Gakkai. Soka Gakkai, or the Value Creation Study Society, is a Nichiren Buddhist organization with a claimed 12 million members worldwide. For those unfamiliar with Nichiren Buddhism, it's a school of Buddhism based on the teachings of a 13th century Japanese monk named Nichiren. To very broadly sum up his teachings, he taught that the world was in an age of spiritual decline and that a specific sutra, the Lotus Sutra, was the only path to salvation. This sutra is the center of Soka Gakkai worship, and in addition to salvation, is believed to bring prosperity into adherents' lives. Members also used to go on pilgrimage to Taisekiji Temple, where Nichiren's original Daigo Honzon, or Great Object of Worship, is enshrined. But this has since changed, for reasons we'll discuss in a while. While the average Japanese person might combine both Buddhist and Shinto practices in their daily life, being a Soka Gakkai member means exclusivity. For example, you're expected to refrain from Shinto occasions and get rid of any memorial tablets you might have in your home for ancestor worship. Missionary work also used to play a bigger role in the religion, but we'll touch on that shortly. Soka Gakkai wasn't always a religious organization though. In fact, it began life as an educational movement, founded in the 1930s by Makiguchi Tsunesaburo. It took on a more religious identity as time went on, and in 1943, Tsunesaburo was thrown into jail by the state for refusing to enshrine a Shinto tablet within the organization. He died in prison a year later, leading to Toda Josei becoming the next leader of Soka Gakkai. After the war, state interference ceased, and Josei was able to kick religious operations into full gear. Soka Gakkai became a lay organization of the Nichiren Shoshu sect of Nichiren Buddhism, with Josei introducing a rather controversial practice called shakubuku, which could be translated as breaking false beliefs. Soka Gakkai missionaries were armed with manuals instructing them how to disprove other religions and beliefs, and went on an aggressive door-to-door conversion campaign. Millions of people, particularly from poor and socially disenfranchised sectors of society, were converted to Nichiren Buddhism. This success was controversial, but what was more controversial was the group's formal entrance into the political sphere. Josei had a dream of establishing a Kokuritsu Kaidan, aka a state platform for spreading the Lotus Sutra. In 1964, a new political party was formed to realize this goal, the Komeito. The Komeito saw near immediate success, and by the December 1969 elections had achieved 10% of the national vote. I think now is a good time to note that the existence of the Komeito was quite frankly illegal. Article 20 of the Japanese Constitution forbids religious groups from exerting political power, but the law didn't fully stop the Komeito. In 1970, the Komeito and Soka Gakkai had to legally become separate entities, but this was more so as rival groups kept using Article 20 as ammunition against the Komeito. Many Soka Gakkai members, however, still considered voting for the Komeito to be one of their duties. I mentioned earlier that Soka Gakkai was connected to the Nichiren Shoshu sect. In 1991, current Soka Gakkai leader Daisaku Ikeda was accused of subverting Nichiren Shoshu's authority and was excommunicated, with Soka Gakkai declared illegitimate. The new religion lost access not only to Taisekiji Temple and the Daigo Honzon, but also access to ordained clergy. Soka Gakkai was, after all, a lay group with no priests of its own. To top it all off, in March of 1995, Om Shinrikyo, another new religious group which I hope to talk about one day, carried out a sarin gas attack on the Tokyo metro, killing several people and permanently injuring hundreds. The event created a massive wave of animosity towards new religious groups, with Soka Gakkai on the receiving end of much suspicion and anger. Despite all these controversies, however, Soka Gakkai and the Komeito are still going strong today. The Komeito is an important coalition partner for the dominant Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP, and has on several occasions been integral in the LDP maintaining power. Soka Gakkai, meanwhile, has dropped the practice of shakubuku, preferring a gentler style of conversion. They also make do without clergy, with appointed members of the group having taken over many of the roles once filled by Nichiren Shoshu priests. In fact, Soka Gakkai denounces the Nichiren Shoshu priesthood as an enemy of the Lotus Sutra, claiming instead that Soka Gakkai is the only organization correctly carrying out the will of the Buddha. What Soka Gakkai certainly has done that Nichiren Shoshu has not is expanded rapidly. While its headquarters might be located in central Tokyo, Soka Gakkai maintains branches in almost 200 different countries. Interestingly enough, many of these branches live off of fairly lean budgets and look after their own fundraising, although in at least a handful of cases, the HQ provided grants for purchasing land to branches located abroad. There are even 2 private fee-paying Soka Gakkai universities, one in Japan and one in the US in California. Membership of Soka Gakkai Japan is relatively cheap, at 3,000 yen or roughly $21 a year. With that said, the religion produces a large amount of study and lifestyle related literature for purchase, while members are also taught to encourage friends and family to join. On top of all this, members are expected to do unpaid volunteer activities within the organization, both during regular practice and special events. I'd like to return to the Lotus Sutra for a moment. I briefly mentioned earlier that chanting this sutra is believed to bring about prosperity. Soka Gakkai members regularly chant the Daimoku, which is a phrase of devotion towards the Lotus Sutra, as well as Gongyo, meaning excerpts from the Lotus Sutra itself. They're in Old Japanese, and rather than chanting them at your own pace, there's an ideal speed you're supposed to reach with recitation. Have a listen. The sutra itself and this phrase are believed to be so powerful that not only can they grant wishes, they may also bring about positive changes in society. What if, however, for argument's sake, your wish didn't come true, even though you chanted the Daimoku regularly? According to ex-Soka Gakkai members, adherents are taught to label disappointment when desires are not fulfilled. Reasons given for unanswered wishes include not chanting the Daimoku properly, having an ambiguous wish, not being ready for the wish to be granted, and being attacked by an evil entity, among other ad hoc explanations. The Lotus Sutra is considered infallible by Soka Gakkai members, and is even expected to take priority over other life commitments, lest one be admonished by other members, or even worse, risk your own salvation. Now, before we finish up here, there are a few random bits and pieces I'd like to mention that I struggled to fit into the rest of the script. In 1969, the Communist Party of Japan revealed that Soka Gakkai had asked the LDP to delay the publication of a book called Soka Gakkai Okiru, or I Denounce Soka Gakkai. The book, by Hirosatsu Fujiwara, essentially criticized a number of aspects of Soka Gakkai, including its political involvement. Current leader Daisaku Ikeda is protected wherever he goes by members of the Kinjo-kai, or Golden Fortress Association, Soka Gakkai's own personal security organization. Not only do they protect the leader, they also guard key Japanese locations such as the Tokyo HQ. Soka Gakkai has a flag. It's a tricolour that looks rather like the flag of Romania. Just look out for the rings in the centre. With those tidbits out of the way, I'd like to thank you for watching this video and hope you learned a thing or two about Soka Gakkai. They're a very interesting religion, but definitely one that has a bit too much influence in Japanese society if you ask me. If you want to look into this new religion a bit more, I would suggest having a look at the Soka Gakkai International website, which is rather enlightening, no pun intended. There is also some English language literature regarding the group, and I would recommend The Dispute Between Soka Gakkai and Nichiren Shoshu Priesthood by Daniel A. Matreau, which covers the details of their schism in depth, and We Alone Can Save Japan by Jacqueline Stone, which explores the Josei era of Soka Gakkai. Next time, I hope to discuss one of the more sinister new religions in Japan, but until then, thank you for watching and take care.